Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to this new video. In this video I'm going to be going over the differences between buying a pre-built PC versus building your own PC. Now it's all well and good deciding you want to get into PC gaming, but there is a bit of a hurdle in deciding whether you want to go with a pre-built computer or building your own, and I'm going to help try and bridge that gap today. Now let's get started with my first major kind of topic here, which is the price. Now, pricing wise, building your own computer is generally going to be cheaper. It does depend on what kind of pre-built you're looking for, but the markup on pre-built computers is pretty high. For instance, I took this Omen PC made by HP, which comes at a retail price of £1,499.99, and I kind of put together a pretty similar build on PC Part Picker, and the build came out to 1,150. Obviously the Omen PC will have a few more bells and whistles like the LEDs and stuff, but the extra money that you save there gives you a lot of room to do what you want with it. So the markup there is pretty high, and it's pretty similar on lower end builds. Similar scale, just different kind of prices, if you get what I mean. Now, one way that the pre-built computers do get a bit cheaper is if they skimp on a part, say if they put in a very cheap power supply, or a very cheap hard drive, or a very cheap case, etc. Now, if you're buying a computer, if you're building the computer yourself, you're going to have full control over everything. Now, is it worth buying a pre-built with a really cheap power supply? I would say not, because every component inside a computer has like value in itself, and sometimes you just do not want to skimp on them, especially something as important as a power supply. And a lot of cheap low-end builds often do skimp on stuff like the power supply. Now, for the extra money that you're going to be spending on buying a pre-built, you do get a couple of advantages, mainly the fact that you do not have to build it yourself, and that the warranty is all into the whole thing. So if it goes wrong for whatever reason, you can just send back the whole thing and they'll fix it for you. Whereas if you're building your own computer, the warranty comes on an individual part basis, meaning that you're going to have to be doing a lot more under the hood time if something goes wrong. What I mean by that is that you'll be having to diagnose the issue yourself before you send the parts back for a refund, warranty, whatever. However, say that your warranty does run out and you have acquired the knowledge from building your own computer, diagnosing it yourself and fixing it yourself in a pre-built would be actually pretty cheap compared to if you didn't have the knowledge to repair it, which is the point for my building a computer, is the knowledge that you gain from it. And it's something that you kind of have to throw yourself into. There are a lot of guides online, a lot of useful resources into building your own computer. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of people compare it to building Lego, which I do get the comparison in a sense, but I wouldn't say it's that easy. It's not difficult, but it's not completely easy, but it's definitely a learning experience, and building your own computer will definitely teach you a lot about the components inside them and how they work together, especially if you do have to ever diagnose an issue with it or swap out any parts. And then additionally, on a pre-built computer, you might void your warranty if you do upgrade your parts, which is kind of bad, because then if something goes, you probably don't have a warranty for it because you removed and replaced a part. Now, despite building a computer, in my opinion, being in the kind of middle ground of difficulty, it's not ridiculously hard. You're basically just slotting in parts where they go and wiring parts where they go. It's nothing like technical, you don't have to do any soldering, it's literally just plugging stuff in and screwing stuff in and such. But for some people that can cause a lot of stress, especially if you're building a more expensive system. Handling the expensive components and putting them in yourself might cause a lot of stress for some people, and if they do have the money to spare and they just don't really care, they might want to opt for a pre-built. I wouldn't recommend for that, but again, some people, if they really want to and don't want to go through the stress of handling those expensive components themselves, can buy a pre-built. That being said, handling the expensive components isn't dangerous, especially if you wear like a protective wrist strap to protect against anti-static. I know a lot of people don't, I personally don't anymore, but computer components are actually surprisingly pretty rugged, and as long as you're not messing around with them or doing stuff that shouldn't be done with them, they'll generally be fine, and even if from the slight chance that something goes wrong, you will be able to replace the part that does go wrong. I mean, for instance, when I was swapping my motherboard over from my old case to my new case, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, it was kind of stuck in there. One of the screws kind of stuck it in one of the standoffs, and I ended up basically almost snapping the motherboard in half. Not very happy with that, but I had to get it out somehow, and nothing else was working. I mean, pulling it out didn't really work either. But point is, I almost snapped it in half. Like, I bent it at a very good angle, and I heard some pretty bad creaking. I mean, I don't recommend you try this, but it was all completely fine. Like, nothing happened. It all worked perfectly fine despite that. So PC components are actually pretty strong as long as you don't like do things that you're not meant to. I mean, I know I'm not meant to bend it in half, but that's a story for another day. But anyway, with a pre-built computer, you don't really get the selection and the kind of either frustration or joy of picking your own parts and going through that process. With building your own, you get full control and full selection over every single component in the build, which I find really good, especially considering I really do not like it when a pre-built manufacturer puts in a really cheap power supply. It's my personal belief that the power supply is basically the most important component of a system. It doesn't really affect gaming too much, but if you're considering the safety of the system, everything is powered by the power supply. Everything. So I prefer to get a much better power supply than possibly the power supplies that many cheap manufacturers for pre-builts like to use. And you can have as many disk drives as you want, as much storage as you want, as much memory as you need, the right graphics card to fit your budget. You can get up right into the micromanagement of everything to make sure it's perfect for you. Now, I've already kind of touched on it a little earlier, but building a PC from scratch is a bit of an experience. I talked about the difficulty of that, but there are a lot of resources online that you can use to your advantage. Like, there is so many. There are subreddits dedicated to it, there's so many web pages about it, there are websites dedicated to it, so many resources where you can learn what you're doing. Maybe the research might be a little bit frustrating when you're researching if all your parts are actually going to fit together, but it's honestly rather straightforward once you understand it. And I do recommend the learning experience, especially for the future when you want to build another one, when you want to upgrade, when you want to do any under-the-hood work. It's really easy to do once you've built your own because you basically know what you're doing. So to sum up, my main points, firstly is price, building your own being a lot cheaper, and then the other points I went over about the kind of building it yourself stuff and the time you might save buying a pre-built versus what you learn from building it yourself. But anyway, I hope that helped clear up any kind of questions or anything you have about pre-built versus building your own computer. I have been doing a lot more kind of tech related stuff. Well, I will be, at least. Especially after doing the Steam stuff, I've decided to kind of dedicate the channel specifically to PC gaming, so expect a lot more videos on that. I'd also like to introduce you to the Discord I made. I made a Discord for my YouTube channel. I'm aware that I'm still a very small channel, but if anybody is interested in that, we have a link down below to that. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next video.